So, how does a company go from being a big deal in its own country to a genuine regional giant in just over a decade? Well, today we're going to break down the story of Chandra Asri, an absolute powerhouse in Indonesia that did exactly that. We're going to look at the strategic moves, the key decisions, everything that fueled their incredible growth. Let's dive in.
Right from the very beginning, the company used this phrase, building blocks. And this isn't just some clever marketing speak. It's literally the core of their entire strategy. Every big project, every partnership, it was all one more block being carefully placed into a much, much larger structure. We're about to see just how they laid that foundation.
And yeah, that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. I mean, we're not talking about slow, steady, year-over-year growth here. We're talking about a calculated, almost explosive expansion that completely reshaped an industry. So, what was their secret? How on earth did they pull it off?
Okay, let's turn back the clock to 2011. The global economy was still a bit shaky, but right there in Indonesia, something huge was about to happen. And it all kicked off with one single pivotal event.
On January 1st, 2011, two of Indonesia's biggest petrochemical players, PT TPIA and PT Chandra Asri, decided to join forces. They merged, and just like that, overnight, a new national champion was born. PT Chandra Asri Petrochemical, the largest company of its kind in the entire country. This merger, this was the cornerstone, the very first building block.
And they didn't just start strong, they started huge. In its very first year, this new combined company brought in nearly $2.2 billion in revenue. This wasn't some startup trying to figure things out. This was a giant, basically born fully formed and ready to go.
But, a big start is one thing. Actually keeping that momentum going, that's a whole different ballgame. So in those early years, Chandra Asri got laser-focused on locking down its position with smart expansions and honestly, a serious commitment to being the best at what they do.
And they moved fast. I mean, the same year they did the merger, they decided to build Indonesia's first ever butadiene plant. That's a key ingredient for synthetic rubber. And just to look at this timeline, they make the call in 2011, and by 2013, the plant is up and running. That's not just ambition, folks. That is some seriously aggressive execution.
But here's what gets really impressive. While they were getting bigger and bigger, they were also doubling down on things like quality and safety. We're talking major safety awards from millions of hours without an accident, top-tier environmental ratings. They even got halal certification for their products. So the big takeaway here is that for Chandra Asri, a solid foundation wasn't just about being big, it was about being the best.
Okay, so once that solid base was in place, Chandra Asri moved into its next phase, using strategic international partnerships to just slingshot their growth and their capabilities to a whole new level.
Let's just take a look at their partnership with Michelin. I mean, this was a masterclass in strategy. First, they spotted the growing demand for eco-friendly tires. Then, they teamed up with one of the biggest names in the business. But here's the genius part. This is where the building blocks come in. That butadiene plant they had just finished building, well, it fed its product directly into this new rubber venture. It's a perfect, seamless example of vertical integration. So smart. Then came the rocket fuel. In 2021, a new partnership with Thai Oil pumped a massive 15.5 trillion rupiah. That's over $1 billion straight into the company. Now, this wasn't just some investment. This was the cash that was going to fund their next massive leap forward. And here is exactly where we see that money going to work. By 2015, they completely supercharged their naphtha cracker. You can think of that as kind of the main engine for their entire operation. They boosted its capacity by a whopping 43%. What that really means is they could now produce way more of the basic chemicals needed for everything else that they do.
All right, so this brings us to the modern era. In just the last few years, the company's made some big strategic shifts that signal a whole new level of ambition, one that looks way beyond Indonesia to the entire region.
So in 2024, they made it official. PT Chandra Asri Petrochemical became PT Chandra Asri Pacific. And a name change like that isn't just for show. It's a bold statement. It's a declaration of a new identity and a much broader regional focus.
This new era is all about what they're calling transformational growth. And we can just forget about small, incremental steps. This is all about giant leaps, building another world-class complex, branching out into totally new industries like infrastructure, and basically getting ready to compete with the biggest players on the global stage. But is this all just big talk and ambition? No way. As of 2022, Chandra Asri was sitting on a war chest of $2.3 billion in total liquidity. And get this, of that amount, a staggering $1.4 billion was pure cash. So yeah, they don't just have a plan, they have the financial firepower to make it all happen.
So we've seen the incredible foundation they've built, right? The smart merger, the powerful partnerships, that amazing financial strength. Now let's look at what they're building on top of all of that. What does the future actually hold for Chandra Asri Pacific?
Well, the future is already under construction. They're building something called Cap2, a second massive complex that will literally double their production to over 8 million tons a year. And at the same time, they're pouring another 15 trillion rupiah into a brand new chlor-alkali plant. These aren't just ideas on a whiteboard. These are the next giant building blocks being put into place as we speak.
From a single merger in 2011 to a regional giant in the making, Chandra Asri has really given us a masterclass in how a clear vision, executed with these powerful building blocks, can completely transform a company and really an entire industry. And that leaves us with one final fascinating question. With this new Pacific identity and a truly global ambition, what will they build next?